Well, I am really excited today to be talking with another author and a fiction author at that. I don't know what the universe is trying to tell me, but this is the second fiction author in less than a month. And Sabrina Fair
Andronica.
Okay, I can say Sabrina really well.
Yeah.
But it's that last name. But Sabrina is the author of several children's books, and they're all about the vegan lifestyle, quite seriously. And what's really amazing is 9 years ago, she went completely meat-free. And it took her 3 more years to identify as a vegan. So I definitely want to talk about that, Sabrina, and I want to talk about your books. And first of all, I just want to say welcome to the show.
Welcome to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show, where your host, Kathleen Gage, shines the spotlight on vegan and plant-based businesses and entrepreneurs from all walks of life committed to cruelty-free eating, healthy lifestyles, animal compassion, and the environment. Enjoy the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure being here.
Fantastic.
I love the podcast. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. Well, this is my activism. You do it through your books, and you're also
Right.
an animal activist. And,
Yes.
I think more and more people are realizing the need to be activist and be a voice for the voiceless. And as one friend of mine, Jackie Norman, who used to be a dairy farmer, says, she goes,
Wow.
It's not that they're voiceless, it's that we're not listening.
Right.
And
That's great. Yeah.
so profound. So tell
Yeah.
me, what made you decide to give up meat 9 years ago?
Well, I remember one day I had a good workout. I went into the sauna and then I said, I'm going to go eat a healthy meal. And I went for lunch by myself, and I was looking through the menu, and I was looking at chicken, and I was looking at fish, and I saw the veggie sandwich. And back then, it was 2014. I mean, they weren't as creative as they are now with the alternatives. So there was no vegan cheese. There was no vegan meat. There was nothing really fancy about it. But I went, a veggie sandwich. And I was like, if I like animals, why am I still eating them? That's all it was. It was
Right.
just so random, but not, because I was super serious. When I got home, I told my parents, I said, I don't want to eat meat anymore. And they really took what I said seriously. They were animal lovers their whole lives. They wanted to raise me meat-free, didn't know how. This was because I was born in 1991. It wasn't as easy. And so when I said I wanted to do this, we just started emptying out the meat. I mean, we finished it. They did, basically. And then we really, did it together as a family. But I was the leader. It was really awesome to kind of lead my parents, and that they were so open to do it with me.
That's pretty incredible because, myself, I was born in 54, and I grew up in an era where we started with TV dinners. You can look at the history of food and you can see where the decline, one, in people's health is, and their consciousness around animals, and just, the issues with obesity and all that goes with it. But most of all, I think that in the last few years, there's been a real awakening around what it means to truly be compassionate to animals.
Right.
And you got that right away, where it was like, I love them. Why am I eating them?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. I was actually working in the pet industry. I would speak at conferences, and I would consult with pet companies and large organizations. And one day I was like, okay, on the one hand, I rescue animals. I work in the pet industry. I love animals, but then I'm consuming them.
Right.
Disconnect.
Right.
So how did you go from giving up meat to really identifying as a vegan? What does that mean to you?
To me, well, I knew, going into it, I was like, okay, I'm vegetarian. I'm making a difference. And you are. But then you don't think much of the dairy industry. We just think, oh, well, we use the milk and da-da-da. No one knows. I know eggs are separate from dairy, but no one knows beyond meat. That's funny. Beyond meat. But no one knows what happens beyond the meat industry. Like, they just don't.
Right.
If you're not involved in that community, or if you don't do your research, because they hide it so well. They want you to not know what really goes on. So then when I started learning about dairy and how it's almost worse than the meat industry, I was like, oh my God, I need to cut this out. On top of it, as an athlete growing up, I struggle with exercise-induced asthma. And I had a nutritionist and a fellow athlete tell me, if you cut out dairy, it will go away. I didn't know where to start. I didn't listen. I said, I love my cheese. I'm Italian. We have cheese all the time. I don't know how to live without it. And it was so funny. I cut a little out, started to make a difference, and then I really cut all of it out. It went away completely. It was like a miracle drug.
Well, and it's amazing because it's the truth about dairy is that in many ways it's so much crueler than it is with meat.
Correct.
And a lot of people think chicken is the healthy meat, and then you find out that chicken is so toxic and just so cruel to the animals.
It's so cruel. Yeah.
And which really leads into the fact that you write children's books and you are doing your activism through your writing.
Yeah.
Now, prior to that, were you an activist?
So I always loved animals. And I think what really motivated these books is I was one of those kids that asked questions, and my parents didn't know how to answer the questions. So I asked, how does our food get on our plate? I asked, what does it mean for a dog to be put to sleep, cat to be put to sleep? It's these questions that children may ask, and they have a curiosity about it, but the parents or any adults around them don't know how to answer because they don't want to disturb the child. And then that should be like a wake-up call. Well, if it's so disturbing, and why we can't tell them, then it's wrong, So I wanted to write books to help those children get their answers in a way where they're being educated, they're finding their awareness in this all of it, animal cruelty, without being so distraught and destroyed by watching footage or hearing what they actually do, but in a way where they know enough that they can try to make a difference in the ways they can as a child and so on. And so I've always loved animals, but we bought our dogs. I'm so different now. I have 4 rescues, so you just kind of keep getting better and better in time. It's a process. You got to climb the compassionate ladder. I was eating vegetarian. I was eating vegan, but I was still using Tide. I wasn't shopping cruelty free. There's so many steps you can take where you don't have to harm animals, and it's actually easier than we think it is.
I'm glad that you brought that up because oftentimes people think once you identify as a vegan, non-vegans, and they say, well, what about this? And your cosmetics and your laundry soap and your shoes and all that. And it is a process, and we don't get all the information overnight in most cases. And I know for myself, it's been, a process of first it was the meat and dairy. And then it was like, oh my gosh, I have leather Western boots. We live out in a rural community. I had dozens of pair. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do with those? Do I throw them out or do I give them away or what do I do? And I talked to other vegans and I said, what's the most compassionate thing to do? And they said, don't waste the animal's life. Give it to someone who can use it like a homeless shelter or something. Right. So I love that you brought that up. And I want to remind people that you're listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. I'm talking with Sabrina of Always Fair Books. And Sabrina, how many books do you have with Always Fair? And I know you have them with you. So for the people that are watching, please hold those up. I'd love to see them.
So I have 3 published books and I'm working on a 4th. This is my first one. It's called Adventure at Rainbow Bridge. And this one basically highlights and pays respect to a rescuer who dedicated his whole life to rescuing misunderstood breeds. And on his 100th birthday, he passes over to the Rainbow Bridge, is reunited with all of his friends. And so it's tribute to rescuers and also to help children, families, adults cope with the loss of a pet. And so it's a very comforting story. And I read it when I'm going through a bad time, to be honest with you. It's one of those, it makes you feel good. My second one is Cruelty Free is the Way to Be. And so when I wrote this one, I said, okay, now this may be a risk, and there's not many books out there on animal testing and how you can be cruelty free and what are the steps to take. There's definitely none to help families or children. So I said, okay, well, maybe it hasn't been done because it won't work, or maybe it hasn't been done because no one's, taken the courage to do it. So I tried my very best. And so far I've gotten great feedback, and it's very rewarding to hear families tell me that, my child and I shop cruelty free, and it's so simple and we have a great time doing it. Because I think the thing that makes it really easy is that there's an app in the back of the book. It's called Cruelty Cutter, and it was founded by an amazing rescue called Beagle Freedom Project. And they rescue beagles and so many other animals that are tested on, and they rescue them and they rehabilitate them and they give them wonderful homes. It's so beautiful to see. I've been part of a few of the rescues. It's very rewarding. So their app is amazing. All you do is you download it. It's free. You scan the barcode as you're out and about the store, and it will tell you right away if it's cruelty free or not.
I love that, because when I go to the store, I actually have my iPhone and I'm looking on there. Okay, cruelty free hairspray.
Yes.
Cruelty, and now tell me if this is in the book before you talk about the next book.
Sure.
Is there a way to educate people about cruelty-free and vegan? Because I didn't know that something could be cruelty-free and not be vegan.
Right.
So I look for both labels. So explain that to people so that if they get the book for their, I should say, when they get the book for their children, that they can explain what to look for.
It just kind of depends, like what's more important to you. I mean, luckily there are so many products that are vegan and cruelty free. I always say, usually, most of the time, like the majority of the time, if it's eco-friendly, you'll see the bunny logo, you'll see the vegan logo, because they're really, like, they put a lot of work, they're conscious about all of it. So it's like, we're helping the planet, we're helping the animals, and we're helping you, because just vegan ingredients alone is going to be healthier for you.
Right.
So because there are so many brands out there, really just take the time to find the one that works for you and try to check off all the box. So usually, I didn't mention a lot about veganism in this book. It was more about the bunny logo. So I was teaching children. It's told by a rabbit, and it's narrated by a lab rabbit, and it's showing children, the rabbit is showing children, like, these are my friends, the beagle, the kitty, the guinea pig, and the monkey, we're all here, yet we're not treated equally. And we all live in a cage, and we never see the sunshine or feel the grass beneath our feet, but you can help us. And the more you support these companies, the more we have a chance of being free.
Wonderful.
So I kind of just leave it at that to make it simple. But as far as if you want all three, just look for the V, look for the bunny, and the rest is history.
All right, I love that. And before we go into your third book, tell people how they can find you. What's the easiest way for people to find out about you, about your books?
I'm very active on Instagram, so it's just my brand logo, Always Fair Books, and you look that up, you'll find me. And then the same, if you want to contact me with any questions or just write a letter, I love receiving those. It's the same thing, alwaysfairbooks@gmail.com.
I love it. I love it. So your third book, tell us about that.
I have to say it's my favorite. Labrador
I think they're all your favorite. I mean, they're just beautiful looking books, and I love how you're doing your activism.
Thank you.
Start with the kids, and that, they will change the world.
They are the future, yes. And what I love the most is when they have an impact on their parents. So if they come home with this information, I've done some school visits, some shelter visits, and I can just tell you alone, like, I went to the San Diego Humane Society. I brought my rescue pit bull with me. She was my ambassador for the day.
I love it.
And this little girl came in and she said, "My mom said that dog looks bad and scary." At the end of the hour, that we were only together for an hour, at the end, she did not want to leave her. And she kept saying, it's sad that the dogs like her in the world are viewed as mean and scary when they're really nice. She didn't want to leave. Like, she just kept doing the turnaround. She was walking out the door. So I'm hoping when she went home, she taught her mother a lesson.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what kind of pity do you have?
I have a blue nose pit,
Okay.
and then I have a black and white, mostly black, pit lab. We definitely think she's mixed with lab.
Okay.
And then I have my two other little ones, my seniors who were rescued from a backyard situation of just
Got it.
neglect.
We had a Shih Tzu that was a backyard breeder dog, and she was
terrible.
10 when she came to us. We didn't even know what she was. She was in such bad shape, and
Right.
that little girl was my heart dog for sure. And right now we have a pit shepherd mix, and then we have a terrier mix that both of them came out of very volatile situations, and we're rescue people for sure.
Right.
So with your third book, so tell us a little bit more about that.
So I noticed because so Shakira is my blue nose pit. She came into the picture just like 6 months ago. So Giselle is the pit lab, and you don't really see you see the lab, but you see the pit. It's more of a prominent feature when she walks in. So to people who are afraid of bully breeds, she can be threatening to them. But to me, I just see a jolly sweet girl. But I never really experienced judgment and fear when I walk down the street until I got Giselle, until I rescued her. And, there would be people they pull onto their kid and they're almost squeezing their kid's hand off to get into the car as quickly as possible. Or I go to the park and they're like, oh, what's her mix? And then I say pit lab, and they're like, oh, well, she's sweet and calm because she's mixed with lab. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I said, if this girl could be a shapeshifter, if she could wear a mask, would people just see her for who she is then? And then I realized I had my third story, and it all came to me. I love it. Beginning, middle, and end. And I was like, oh my God, this is a book, and I hope I can deliver it, and so it's about a homeless pit bull who cannot find any luck. She can't, no matter who she goes up to on the street, they all are afraid of her. And then she sees these children. She doesn't really know the holiday because, she's a homeless dog. So I try to make that part realistic, but she sees they all dress up and they change their appearance, and it's Halloween. So she's just watching these kids. And then the next day she goes through her usual alley to get her food. She's going through the dumpster and she finds a mask of a well-liked dog. Now, she doesn't know the breed, but it's a Labrador retriever. And so she wears that mask and hopes to find her forever home. And, there's obstacles along the way where she is adopted, then the mask comes off and she's got to run away. I'm giving away the story, but it's one of those, you can read it and you'll still feel like you're hearing it for the first time. And at the end, she loses her mask, but she finds a family who sees her for her. Yeah. So it's about breed discrimination. It's about how we view others. And no matter what you've heard about their background or what people have told you, you have to give everyone a chance. There's good and bad in every animal, in every person. I'm not saying go up to every bully breed you see behind a cage and put your hands through. Exactly. It's just like, give the dog a chance. It's all about the energy. They read your energy. And I just want to teach children that, as well as if whatever identity issues they may be going through, to never change who you are, because in the end, through the obstacles, it all works out being yourself.
I love that. And we had a red nose who's gone over the Rainbow Bridge, and he was a rescue. He was a bait dog. And when we got him, his ears were stapled on. He was all chewed up on his face. And he turned out to be the most awesome, beautiful dog we could have ever wanted. He was so sweet. And he was so and people fell in love with him. I think he helped to break the stereotype. So, this particular show, the Vegan Visibility Podcast, is really about business practices, marketing, and all that. And the reason I wanted you on this show is rather than the plant-based eating for health, because we could talk about nutrition and all that, but I really want to talk about your experience as an author. And you gave a few things away of what you do to market your book. You go into shelters, you go into schools. Tell us about the process. Well, for new authors, because a lot of people think that if they write a book and they put it up on Amazon, which people can find your books on Amazon, and I encourage them to go there. We'll put the link in the show notes. But a lot of people think that's all they need to do. And
Right.
John Kramer, who wrote 1,001 Ways to Market Your Book, he happens to be a friend of mine. And he said, most books will never sell more than $100 worth in a year because the author doesn't have any clue how to market. So you as an author, what would you recommend to other vegan authors, whether they be fiction or nonfiction, on how to market their books?
I think it's all about finding your community and going from there, because once you get people who are like-minded reading your books, they will pass it on to people who they are trying to give the message out to, but don't know how. And I always feel like a book, a documentary, a film kind of does the trick versus like, can I sit down and talk with you? I mean, it works sometimes, but sometimes they don't have the words to put it into, you know, to get the message across. So I think it's one of those, if you're writing a book about pit bulls, try to get a bully community, you know, like in your corner, because they will promote it. They will help you. And recently I needed their help and they helped me. So I check my reviews daily on Amazon. I go, okay, am I getting any new reviews? And I had a 5-star rating and it was amazing. And you work hard for that.
Right.
One day I come on, I have 6 1-star reviews.
What?
Yes. This just happened to me about 3 weeks ago. And I went, is this a joke? I mean, and then on top of it, I know the Amazon guidelines. So I know, because I've had people bought my book, read the book, delivered great reviews, and Amazon didn't accept it for this, and that. Right. And it made no sense. So when I'm reading it, it's a news article about a pit bull attack. I said, this has nothing to do with my product. This has nothing to do with the story. They're not a verified purchase. This is wrong. This should be reported. There was another one. How dare you compare human racism with dog racism? That is the most racist thing.
Wow.
Very ignorant posts. And all of them, if you did a little detective work, you can see they all knew each other. And they all had the same title, dangerous propaganda, dangerous propaganda. Wow. And it's like, wow.
The people that are on a crusade to get rid of the pit breed.
I mean, you know? Just basically kill them off in the most violent way. They would. And it's like, these dogs they don't belong in a home. It's like, okay, well then where do they belong? And they're bred to fight. So it's like, anyway.
Well, you know, when you talked about that comparison that, you know, how we treat animals is really how we treat humans.
Absolutely.
There's a wonderful book called Eternal Treblinka, and it's about the comparison of how we treat animals leads into holocausts. And it was written by somebody who had parents that were in the Holocaust, and phenomenal book. But what the connection between how we treat our animals is how we treat humans. And when we have that kindness, we tend to be kinder to people in general.
Absolutely.
So on any given, let's take a week in the life of the books that you have in your life, Sabrina, of what you do to get the message out about your books, specifically what you do. You do book signings, I would imagine. Right. You go to schools, you go to shelters. What else?
So I always wanted to give back to animals, and I'd toss and turn at night because I'd be like, how can I do it? I don't have millions to do it. So how else can I do it? I have to put, you know, my creativity in here somewhere. So I do my best. You know, it's not a lot of money, but it's the thought that counts. It's also, it brings awareness to these rescues that I pick to do fundraisers for. So I always donate my books to auctions. Nice. I donate my books to rescues so they can put them on their website. And then I do like a, you know, buy the book for the fundraiser, and then I give 50%, you know, to this rescue. So I try to do, I try to raise money through my books, and I've done pretty well. You know, I always have a big goal, but I guess like I said, it's,
you got to have
climb
the
up the ladder. I just started this in 2020, so I just have big goals for it, and I think eventually it really will reach that satisfying point for me.
Well,
but the rescues love it.
Yeah, one of the things you're doing right is getting on podcast shows, and there's a lot of vegan podcast shows out there.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, as kind of a side story, how I got involved in the pet industry. It was when our little rescue Delaney, the Shih Tzu, who was a puppy mill breeder dog, and she was about 10 when she came to us, had rotted out teeth, had tumors all over her belly, had a bad hip. She was literally pulling herself onto my mother-in-law, who recently passed away. She lived on the back of our property, and my mother-in-law called and said, there's this thing here. I don't know what it is, but there's this thing. And she picked it up, and we took it to the vet and found out that it actually was a Shih Tzu, a toy Shih Tzu. So what I did, because the dog needed so much care and attention and vet bills, and I mean, it was going to be really substantial. First, we thought we were going to have to put her down because she was in such bad shape. And we said, she's got good blood work. So if you do certain things, it'll give her a quality of life. She was with us for 4 years. But what we did is I actually did a crowdfunding, and I said, I've got this dog that we just rescued, and I will give you this digital product because I do digital marketing. So I created a product that people would get if they made a donation to the Delaney's Fund. And we called her From Dumpster to Diva is what it was.
I love it.
Not only did we raise several $1,000s for her surgeries and her dental work and all the stuff we had to do, I was able to donate several thousand to nonprofits to do with animals. And that's how I was discovered by the pet industry. It was just like divine intervention. So I truly believe, Sabrina, that when we're doing what we're called to do, and you do it through your books, I love what you're doing. The universe is God, higher power, whatever you call it, is going to take care of you, because we need more Sabrinas in the world. So if you could wave a magic wand and have things turn out the way you would like them to turn out. Obviously, animals wouldn't be abused, but that is a reality we live with. What would you want your books to be able to do over the next 5 years?
I would just love to open up more minds and hearts, because we've all been in that place where we thought we needed meat to survive. We thought that pit bulls were vicious. We thought, it's just this awakening that happens to you. And it feels so good because you start becoming more aware of everything else around you. I mean, every choice I make now is with kindness. I mean, it's a side note, but it's not. I have long hair. And so when I would cut it all off, I look down on the floor, I go, that's just a waste of hair. So the last 3 times now I've donated my hair because I want to help somebody else.
That's awesome.
And I knew a girl on a team when I was a yoga and meditation coach for a swim team, and she had alopecia and she rocked it, but it's hard because there are little girls, there's little boys, they want wigs, and it takes like 8 ponytails to make 1 wig. So every time I donate my hair, I make sure that they are not associated with animal testing whatsoever. It's just a wig company. And, it makes me feel good. So I love helping. I love giving back. And I swear I was always been a kind person, but becoming vegan has opened up all these portals of how can I help? How can I give back? So I think I just want to make a kinder future with these books. And the one thing I would love to see so much are more commercials where there's somebody eating a vegan meal.
I agree.
Instead of the turkey roast, the chicken, the thing. And I would love to see Disney. I mean, I love if it was one of my stories, have a bully breed as a hero, have a rescue dog be a hero. And not, I mean, I love all breeds, but it's a labradoodle, it's a lab, it's a specific breed that we always see on TV, and they're the good guys, and these dogs, these are the criminal dogs. It shouldn't be that. There should be more representation. We always talk about with people, there should be more representation with animals, and that's what I would love to see as time goes on. And I would hope that my books can almost, attract somebody in the industry.
I got to tell you, years ago, before the pandemic, I actually did a lot of keynote speaking. I've been a keynoter for nearly 30 years now.
Wow.
And I used to work with large organizations. And one of the exercises we would do is where I would say, okay, I want you to write down one thing that if you could have this come true in your life? If you could get help with this, what would it be? People would write it down. I said, great. I need a volunteer. Stand up and share what you want. And inevitably, the people who stood up and shared what they needed and what they wanted, they would find somebody in the group who either could help them directly or indirectly. So my belief is that if we don't speak it, it does not become manifest.
Very
if you put it out there. So Disney, if you're listening, Disney, come on.
You know what? My review right here says this book is so timely and entertaining that Pixar should contact Sabrina Fair Andronica.
Well, you know, I would say that
keep
opening
your
doors. Instagram, do some TikToks, because actually now, if you notice on a lot of these, like the world's funniest videos and all that, they go onto TikTok and Instagram to find these things. So keep doing what you're doing. And I so appreciate what you're doing for the pit bulls, for the animals, and for veganism. So in closing, what are your final thoughts for people? What would you like to leave them with?
Just to have faith in yourself, take the risk. I know with my fourth book, I'm taking a lot of risks, and I think it's necessary. This is going to be my first introduction to veganism. It's not only going to be an introduction to veganism for people, but also the very, very possibility that dogs thrive on a vegan diet. All 4 of my dogs are vegan and they're thriving. So it's going to, I love it. It's like, bring it. I do
believe, didn't you say that your dogs are on VDog brand?
Yes, VDog. And then we also,
her son, she actually owns the company. She founded it.
Awesome. I love
good friend, and I just adore what she's doing. But and her dogs are on VDog.
Yeah,
and
they're thriving.
Our
vet loves it. It's great.
Let me ask you this. For people who have a belief that dogs have to be carnivores, that they have to have that meat animal product, how do you convince them otherwise? Because I'm kind of at that place in my household. It's like, I'd really like to try some vegan dog food and see what it does. So,
well, they are omnivores, and so you start with that. And I feel like dogs, they adapt to our lifestyles out of all animals. They really can adapt to us. They are our best friend. And it's one of those things that, well, one, I have a vegan vet. So she's and she's been in practice for 20 years. So that's what she's known for. So when you go to somebody who's so knowledgeable, who is your doctor, and they give you the recipes that they know that these dogs need to thrive, then that's a great start. But also because there are plenty of vets out there that don't support it, and they aren't educated in that part of it. So try to find a vet that understands you and where you're coming from. 2, read about it. Read successful stories. They're all very healthy, but I think my success story is my newly adopted dog. She had severe allergies in the rescue, and then when they told me, just so you know, she has a poultry allergy, and then my vet was telling me usually when they have a poultry allergy, they're also allergic to beef. I went, all right, well, she's coming into the right house.
Wow.
So switching her over to this vegan diet, she came to us, she was 83 pounds, extremely overweight. It was adorable, but it wasn't, because she waddled as she ran down the driveway. We're like, we need to do something. Her legs were shaking. She had extremely red paws. Like little warts. It was horrible. Her ears, everything. She's been on it now, I guess, 6 months. We did it right away when she came to us, and it was a slow transition. You want to do it as slowly as possible, do it in it's not like, here's chicken, here's vegan food, but do it as best as you can. I would say a week, and she's lost 20 pounds. All the redness is gone, and she's a new dog. People have seen her. We visited the shelter where we adopt her. Like, that's her. She looks younger. She's just doing so well. She has so much energy. She's no longer shaking. So she's my poster child for dogs to be vegan, especially a bully breed. It's like, oh, well, maybe a Chihuahua. This is a pit bull. She's strong. And then I have people where they're petting her and they're like, doing the little famous tap on the stomach. They're like, she's well fed. I'm like, yeah, they probably think it's a raw diet. It's not.
That's incredible. I love it.
Raw meat. Yeah.
All right. Well, Sabrina, this has been delightful. I so appreciate what you're doing. I wish you much success. And let's keep doing what we're doing. You go out, write those books, and I'll keep doing my podcast.
Oh, I love it.
Kathleen Gage with Vegan Visibility, wishing you a great day.
You've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when the next episode is live. And we always appreciate reviews. Join us next time for more inspiration, education, and motivation to build your business one cruelty-free and healthy person at a time.